All right, so hi, my name is Emma Colson.
And my name is Isabella, and our topic is how food plant workers clash with employees over the coronavirus safety.
All right, so to start, what is the coronavirus? So COVID-19 is an infectious disease, and it's caused by the new coronavirus, and that is believed to have emerged from China in December of 2019. And at this time, there are no specific vaccines or treatments for COVID-19, but there are many ongoing clinical trials for evaluating potential treatments. And many countries have declared restrictive measures such as lockdown, shelter in place, or stay at home orders to contain the pandemic at a local level, so what we know as the quarantine that we're all in.
Does that seem to have worked in Buffalo?
No.
Only because it's not bad here, so no one's taking it serious.
Okay.
I mean, it hasn't not worked because the cases have stayed the same, but since it's not bad, no one takes it as if.
The only problem here is in Erie County is there's so many nursing homes that the numbers seem a lot larger than like in other areas in New York State.
Okay.
So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like even for phase one, like Long Island, I think their numbers were worse than ours, right?
Yeah.
But they went into it phase one quicker because ours just kept staying the same.
Yeah.
When everyone else's went down.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So how is the virus affecting the food supply? So after the pandemic hit, there were many things that got affected, and one of the things that got affected the most was the food supply. So two aspects we wanted to focus on were how were they affected long-term and how they were going to be affected short-term. So what we found that is that in the short term, there was a lack of air freight and trucker shortages and disrupting deliveries of fresh food. And longer term, a lack of labor is affecting planting and harvesting and can cause shortages in rising prices for staple crops. So that's a problem because since there's no workers, it's not affecting only now because there's none of that, but it takes time for them to harvest these. So even like if you grow something, it takes 3 months. Whenever they get the workers back, then it's 3 months from that.
So originally it was the delivery system, getting it to the right place was the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then it became the workers even if they had like a certain amount of workers, they could not possibly produce as much as they were before.
Okay.
And then this chart kind of like puts it into perspective on how many people actually go in to the food industry, because before this, I didn't realize how like that could just be one place. But it's like, it goes from like 6 different steps, and that's why eventually the retailers who are selling it, they have such a shortage just because the farmers couldn't produce it now. Okay. And then, so what is particularly disrupting the food supply? So after looking at the short-term and long-term effects, we wanted to see why they were getting affected as bad as they were. So we realized that with many planes grounded and shipping containers hard to find after the initial coronavirus crisis in China, that shipments of vegetables from Africa to Europe or fruit from South America to the United States are being disrupted too. So it's not like it's just a certain area. It's becoming everywhere that is having this shortage. And many employees feel like they're not safe to go to work. So since there's a labor shortage, it causes the crops that were already planted to rot because no one can tend to the needs of the harvests that they need to do. And across the globe, all the harvests are just becoming a waste because all the work they did before now can't be finished and they can't sell that. And it also puts them back a couple of months as it is. So more wide-scale crop losses are looming in India, where lockdown has set masses of workers home, leaving farms and markets shorthand of staple crops that they need.
Okay. So one of the questions we had was, what rights do workers have under the National Labor Relations Act? And basically it is to protect the rights of employees and employers. It's to encourage collective bargaining and to curtail certain private sector labor and management practices. It's to like keep the general welfare of employees in the United States safe. It also is a federal law that grants employees and employers to the right to form or join unions and engage in practices to improve their working conditions, to keep them safe. It's really just to keep them safe and like protect their rights as employees. Should employees at meatpacking companies be able to take job protected unpaid leave if they don't feel safe working? So me and Emma thought that we don't think that employees should have gotten unpaid leave. However, one of the things that we thought would be better would be hazard pay. It's a better alternative for those that are still working. And for many employees, unpaid leave wasn't an option. They felt financial pressure outside of their company to come in so they can continue to provide for their families.
So in other words, if I felt like I was sick, I could take off, but I wouldn't be paid.
Right. So a lot of people decided that even if they didn't feel sick, but others were getting unpaid leave, that they should do that as well. So I think that the hazard pay would have been a better alternative, and I think a lot of people were taking the hazard pay.
So people came back to work when they were probably sick.
Yes,
because they didn't have a better alternative.
No.
Yeah, they had to work because they
had to provide for their families. Some people are like single working families, like they didn't have a choice.
So it'd be one thing if like it benefited everyone, but since it's only benefiting a portion of the people, it's kind of just pointless. Not pointless, but it's only helping some people, not everyone who actually need it.
So
some people working in meatpacking plants are working close together?
I'm pretty sure they're
we'll get to like they're doing on the next couple of slides we say like the precautions they're doing, but I think it's just we'll get to that.
Okay.
Some of the advantages for the unpaid leave is that employees had the option in some companies, and also that made for less people in the actual factories. And the disadvantage was these organizations were not reaching maximum production capacity, like making them lose profits. And the teamwork aspect was obviously missing, and high risk.
Okay.
So what are the advantages and disadvantages of offering workers bonus pay if they complete all shifts without missing any work for a specific period of time during the pandemic? So obviously it was an incentive to work. If you're getting more money and you still have a job, which a lot of Americans were out of during the coronavirus. Some companies, some employees interpreted this as pressure or like miscommunication, that they were like pressured to work outside of their family, like environment that the companies were offering them or pressuring them to work. But some companies were offering bonuses to workers, but they were intended only for those that were cleared to return to the workplace. And also some companies were offering the bonus pay only if you did not miss one single day, which is obviously hard even if there's not a pandemic going on. Things happen. So an example of this was the company Tyson and Cargill. They pledged $500 checks to meat plant workers who completed all the shifts without missing any work over this certain period of time, as the meat demand in grocery stores skyrocketed.
Because people are eating at home?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this happened like all over the state, but I know here there was like a rumor that there wasn't enough meat, so people were going insane, like thinking that they needed to stock up, like just like the toilet paper, like for some reason they thought
there's meat here.
Yeah, it was like meat was like they thought it was just gonna be like gone. So
Jillian, what did you find? Did you find that at all?
By me, like having meat shortages here?
Or tell me you're a vegetarian and it didn't matter, right?
I mean, my mom's has been saying that she's been trying to like buy meat at the grocery store and it's not really available. I'm only 2 hours north of New York City, so I'm pretty close to kind of the hub of things.
Okay.
Are you near Westchester?
Sorry?
Are you near Westchester?
I'm like an hour and a half north of Westchester.
It wasn't Westchester, didn't that they had like the National Guard going to people's doors, didn't they, with food?
I didn't hear about that, but I would not be surprised.
Apparently it was so bad that like people didn't feel comfortable leaving their house, so National Guard had to like deliver them food.
Wow. Yeah, I'm like an hour south of Albany.
Oh, okay.
So I'm far enough north, but there's like a town over where a lot of like the wealthy people from the city, they have like vacation homes there, or like people that are a little older, they like retire there. So we have pretty strong connections to New York.
Joe, did you find the shortage down your way?
Not really. I've been ordering out a lot, so it's been fast food for me. I wish I could be saying I'm getting fat and happy, but I'm just getting fat. So,
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, everything's open up now here on the island, so the beaches are all open and everybody's out and about. So things are going back to the new normal. Just more curfews and regulations and beach closing down faster. But in terms of meat, like we haven't really. The price has definitely gone up. For 3 pounds of like ground beef, it's like $12. But yeah, we haven't had a shortage here. So.
Oh, so I'll just explain this chart quick. So as you can see here, before we did this project, I was kind of thinking to myself, like restaurants, even just restaurants, how are they making money? Because everywhere else they have like online places you can just order it from, whether it's like Best Buy, whatever. Restaurants, they didn't. So then right here it even says food and beverage services, they have a way more of a chance of getting laid off, as you can see here. And this just made this more of a point that like the food industry is at much more of a risk than any other industry for this reason.
But they're the ones that need to work the most.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what actions are meatpacking companies taking to try and keep their workers safe? So the meatpacking giants like Smithfield, Tyson Food, Cargill, USA Holdings, they have been installing plastic shields between processing line employees, because there are so many of them, to prevent the virus spread. So they're social distancing in that way, and staggering break times, setting up tents to provide extra space between the people. So instead of having like, we'll say there's 200 workers. So instead of having like 30 of them have the same break time, instead they're just limiting down the numbers and they're separating their break space. So they're not really coming in any contact. And then providing mask gear and protective gear to each individual who's working, and taking the employees' temperatures when they show up for work every single day. And then Mission Foods has also been taking a lot of safety precautions. They are taking workers' temperatures as well. They're increasing the cleaning and the sanitation, because it's not really for sure how exactly the virus is spread, so they're just taking the extra step, and increased social distancing in the dining areas. So the unions informed all their workers that they did have the right not to work if they believed it was unsafe. So they had the option.
But they wouldn't get paid.
That's what I was just, did we look into if they got paid?
I don't think they did.
Oh yeah, I feel like if they did get paid.
I just think they wouldn't get fired.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I still got to feed the family, pay the rent.
Yeah, exactly. So they had to go in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in.
Yeah. You're going to take the risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what can this do to the food supply chain? So the COVID-19 pandemic is basically disrupting the entire global food supply chain at nearly every level. At least 265 million people are at risk of going hungry in 2020. According to an estimate by the UN in April, that's almost twice as much as in 2019, which is kind of crazy. Farmers in the US and the UK have been forced to be like dumping food, milk, because the demand from restaurants and coffee shops just plummeted. Like there was no need for it.
And some farmers only sold product that ended up going to the restaurant supply chain?
Yeah, like they some only focused on certain things.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of menus have decreased in size just because there's no need for them if they're they just started opening up. So a lot of it was just takeout if they were even opened.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for all of this supply. Also, some countries have imposed export bans. Vietnam announced a ban on rice exports in March, but that was lifted. And then Russia announced in April a quota for wheat exports until June.
So we could still see an impact on certain foods.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, blocking trade that other countries rely on to feed people all over the globe.
Like bananas.
Yeah,
so
bananas, just certain foods that you are not normal here or grow here. It's impacting everywhere.
And I think that's kind of the main problem, because since a lot of farms only focus on certain things, if one of those things gets knocked out, they're left with like half of their revenue before.
Yeah. So
they're all getting hit
I
pretty
think
hard
it's going to continue. The food supply chain is definitely going to be changing a lot in the next at least year or maybe even 5 years because of the pandemic, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are our sources, and that was basically it.
Why? I mean, all good points. Why do you think it hit the meat plants in the Midwest so hard when we saw most of the initial hit of COVID in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey? How did it get to packing plants in the Midwest?
I feel like it's just kind of because people get like the paranoia of it. And I feel like it's kind of just like the hand sanitizer, the toilet paper. Like, it's like everyone has a certain thing that they, for some reason, believe it's going to get impacted by, regardless of if it's rational or not. I think it's just kind of like everyone is so in a state of anxiety and just stressing out about certain things. And I don't know if that is why the meatpacking industry got so affected there, or maybe it's just the resources they needed to get that, but I don't really know. That's just my personal opinion on it.
What'd you guys learn from this?
I learned how big the food supply chain was. I really had absolutely no idea. And why
don't you go back to that, just so we can see it?
That really kind of, you can't do it that way.
Yes, we can.
Oh, yeah.
This one?
No.
Yeah, one more.
Again.
One more.
This one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one.
That was crazy.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
saw that and I was like, I have to add that in because we could sit here like describing like there's this level, there's this level, but this really shows you that there are so many people that go into this. So it's kind of like if just one area gets knocked out,
it's like
kind of like the real life chain. What, the chain of life?
No,
or something, whatever. It's just like if there is an impact in one specific area, every single area after that is affected.
Yeah.
And it may take time for this sequence to work.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Sure,
and it's like if one part is altered, it doesn't only affect it then, you don't know how long it's going to take for it to completely repair back to how it was before.
Right.
So if we look at the pigs that the processors weren't able to process, so they let pigs go. Now farmers killed pigs.
Yeah.
They don't just like pop up after you gotta.
You're ready for us.
So we still could see food shortages coming down.
Yeah. And also because then when everything does go back into play, where's all of it going to come from?
Right.
Like, let's say Chipotle, our friend, he gives Chipotle, the one near us, all the vegetables and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they don't know when it's going to come, so they're not going to keep harvesting for whenever it is. So why would they make all those crops if they're going to go to waste? So it's kind of like you don't really know how long this will take.
So you may not be willing to take the risk as a farmer of planting something if you're not sure where your end market is going to be.
Especially when I wouldn't even know how many total went to waste in the first place. So it's not like they can afford to waste anymore on just the chance that it could open up next week. It could open up in a month. So I feel like they would play it safe and just wait until it is actually open.
But the food supply has there's a cycle here.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't turn on a dime.
Which is why the food supply got affected so much, not the retail industry. It's just like, I'm happy we did this because I didn't even realize how much went into it. Like, I go to Chipotle, I get a burrito, and I'm like, okay, it's a burrito. But it comes from every other area before it.
Right. And there's hands at each part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That
like
played a major part in it.
Piece of food in that burrito.
Yeah.
So that now, if you got the processors doing all that stuff, will that increase the price of the product?
I mean, it depends on.
There definitely already has been an increase in the price of at least meat. I don't know if it's just like near us or like everywhere, but I think it might continue to increase because I don't think people are going to be making as much.
Well, I think that's where supply and demand comes into play.
Definitely.
If they're not making a lot,
then there's
the demand is high,
yeah.
so they might as well just charge more because there's no other option.
Right.
This requires a change in how people manage companies, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
definitely.
And that's why I feel like it's important. When we were doing the quiz we just had,
Yep.
kind of makes you think that like this is, I feel like, a scare for everyone, that we should be prepared for anything.
Yeah.
And this is like a red flag saying that like this could be a warning. It could be 100 times worse. So when it comes to this stuff, I think it's good for people to realize that like any day something could happen.
And we have to plan for it.
Yeah, definitely. And this will be good practice for
because
that.
I don't think the U.S. was even slightly prepared for something like this.
Definitely
No.
not.
I would agree.
And
So
that's
now
why
that you know,
hard.
Yeah.
now that you know this, what can you do to prepare for your future based on the knowledge of everything you've picked up through this? What are you going to do?
Well, one aspect when it's coming to food is I was in business communications last semester, and before all of this happened, I did my, what's called like, you got to pick your topic. What was it?
Informative presentation?
Yeah, informative. So I did mine on preppers. So it was kind of weird timing because the day after I presented it, no, we'll say 2 weeks after. 2 weeks after I presented it, we all got let out of school. But that even just like, there's so much you can do that's not even a lot that will help you if something like this happens. Because I put a picture in my slideshow of empty like aisles in Wegmans everywhere, and then it actually happened. You know, it's like I didn't even think it would happen, and it happened. So it's kind of like you're not going to expect it to happen. It's going to come out of nowhere. So you might as well prepare for the impossible if that's it, or the possible that could be near. So with food, I'd probably start prepping.
Okay. How did you feel when you saw the empty shelves in Wegmans?
Oh, I hated it. It was so scary.
It was like creepy. I did not like it.
It just was scary because especially like everyone in masks.
Yeah.
It was just unsettling.
It's like a totally way of
because
life.
It's nothing we've ever seen before.
Never.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So are you better off do you think your quality of life in the future will be better as a result of everything we know now?
Definitely.
I think so.
Only because you appreciate things more.
Yeah.
Even just going into Wegmans not wearing a mask or sitting in a restaurant.
Sitting in a restaurant with friends. Yeah. I feel like.
Have you gone out to a restaurant yet?
Yeah.
We did the other day.
We did yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
Yeah, we went yesterday.
And it was so hot and uncomfortable that it was not even worth going. There was so many people because people are so eager to get out.
But it was nice being around people.
Yeah, it was nice being around people.
Besides the grocery store.
Yeah, and like each other.
Yeah.
So it's something we need is this contact.
Yeah.
Have you been to any restaurants yet? No.
Not yet.
Well,
no, I've done ours. They just started opening up and I'm not quite sure.
Well, if you
ready.
do, go under where someone has an umbrella because it was hot.
It's hot.
Yeah. It was really uncomfortable.
That's a good point to think about.
Yeah.
But they do a good job, I think, of like making like the safety precautions they do. They follow them good, I think. I mean, as good as they can for outdoor restaurants opening.
Sure.
Yeah.
The best they can.
Service was not that good, but they've just opened back up. So what do you expect?
Could you be a server and wear a mask an entire shift?
Oh. It was. I
No,
couldn't.
they
even
did, but
imagine.
I couldn't.
I couldn't.
It was 95 degrees.
Yeah, it was hot.
It was
and they
so
had to wear
hot.
pants. Like no shorts, no skirts, like straight like black pants. And I couldn't do it. I would quit.
So both Joe and Jillian, you've done your presentations. How does this relate to some of the stuff you were talking?
I mean, I think with everything that's related to coronavirus, it's just kind of centered around like change. Like there's a deviation from our norm, and we kind of have to like accept that that's happening and like adjust. I think that's kind of like the theme of what's going on today.
Yeah.
To build upon that, Christian and I did our presentation on working from home and how that's impacted, and it looks like it's going to be the new normal working from home. A lot of employees are going to work from home in the near future, or at least choose to. And it looks like social distancing is going to be the new normal, or at least part of it. So that's what we've seen. in our project.
I think so too. I agree. I think I think a lot of people actually prefer working from home after this whole thing started. And I mean, the social distancing thing, personal space should be normal anyway. But like, I think adult is all going to be kind of a new normal as much as you can.
Yeah, but the charts you're showing here, these are jobs that can't be done remotely.
Right. No. Yeah.
That's why even on the quiz we had, one of the questions, or maybe it was just on one of your modules, it said that like people are getting, it was an article you posted where like people are getting too comfortable when they can't, like people are like, oh, well, what if virtual is the new like every day, but it's like, it can't be.
No.
Not every job can do that. Like people are only focusing on like school, some like corporate jobs, you can just Zoom. Like my dad told me, he said he's had more face-to-face time since it's gone remote than he did before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's easy for them, but like, what are they going to do? So it's not possible for it. It's not ideal for it to go remote because there are so many job industries that can't do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Good. David, any thoughts?
I have a question for Emma and Isabella. How would like a company diversify their supply chain to hedge their bets against a pandemic? I know Starbucks like gets their coffee beans from all over the world. So that like kind of makes their supply chain not foolproof, but definitely stronger against like a pandemic like this.
Yeah.
How would you think the company would do that?
Said that they should be prepared. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, but what could they do?
Yeah.
No, but like, I don't know, maybe pick certain parts only because it's like they go from so many workers to none. Maybe not none, a certain amount. Maybe just like plan it ahead on what you would do in the situation, you know? Who you put to what job, not having it so it's like 10 people are all focusing on the wide range. Maybe focus on 10 different areas where you need the help. And that I'm not a farmer, so I don't know what they could specifically do. But thinking about it, that's something. Getting it in your head that something could happen and planning what you do if that happened.
It'll be interesting to see what companies do, like approaching risk management in the near future after this pandemic.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like what the new ideas that people come up with,
and also to see like how many people actually take advantage of what happened.
Yeah.
And
what do you mean?
I mean, like this happened, and it's going to be interesting to see what companies use that as a lesson and learn from it, and
back to normal.
Or companies who just totally forget that happened and say,
disregard
we're out and
Yeah.
move on.
I should have you say that again because I think you're both spot on with that.
Yeah.
That, I think if we're going to walk away with the lesson from that.
It should be a lesson.
Then it's worth it because we all
like,
learned.
Right. But some people will just say, oh, it's done and go back to
like completely normal. Yeah.
Good thing. Other thoughts, questions?
I did have one question though about, you did mention the idea, the incentive of hazard pay to help incentivize employees to show up. I was wondering what your opinion was on the issue though of what if you're already operating on such a thin margin that you can't afford to actually increase the pay of your workers? How do you entice them to show up to work?
I feel like
I don't really know how companies went about the hazard pay, but I know, for example, a couple weeks ago, FedEx was not offering hazard pay to their employees because they simply couldn't, which I thought was weird because I feel like FedEx, if anything, has so much more business because everyone's ordering things to their home. But anyway, UPS was. So people were quitting FedEx and going to UPS. So I think that a lot of people would see competitors, like their employers' competitors doing that and just quit and go to there because everyone needs help now. But as an incentive for the bonus pay, if companies can't afford it, I think if they can't afford it in the first place, they can't afford to really stay alive that much.
Well, the reason why I ask is because the food service industry is notorious for the thin margins that they operate on. Like even a couple percentage points increases in their supply chain can completely wipe out a restaurant at the back end.
Right.
And that's right. Yeah, I agree because it has me thinking because so many people now are getting unemployment who don't need it at all. But then I feel like why is their money going into the businesses that like we'll say unemployment, you're getting $600 a week. You can't give that to a business owner and expect that to cover everything. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like there should be money going to those places who actually need the money more.
Yeah, and to like afford to give their employees
yeah.
hazard pay, because they are risking their lives to a point, especially like people in hospitals, like nurses. I mean, they
Or
are
people who have like a prior
like
sickness.
Yeah, underlying illnesses. Like they should be getting hazard pay, but if a company can't afford to do it,
There's
then
nothing they can do.
there's nothing. I feel like.
So should the free market take care of that, and companies that survive and the weak fail?
I
Which
really
sucks,
don't know what I think would be the best alternative for that.
Yeah.
Only it's kind of like it's a hard spot, because I'm not saying like one part should take care of it because they didn't do something before, and I'm not saying they could have.
No.
I don't know. I just feel like it all just needs to be
sticky
altered,
situation.
thought through on what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why, if you learn the lesson, you can plan for if this happens again.
Yeah. I think there's been some things that have gone on, and like all the airlines got is money.
Yeah.
They have to keep the employment levels at the level they were till end of September, October.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know
But as soon as they go back, they've all the airline companies have announced they're going to eliminate 25 to 30% of their flights and their employees. So all we've done is, by giving the money to the airline, we've succeeded in keeping people employed for a couple more months.
Right.
Yeah, so that's not even a good alternative.
I don't know if it was thought through. I mean,
yeah, so like I feel like the hard part is no one knows what the best option would be.
No.
Right.
So we're all looking at this thinking that's stupid. Why would they do that? But what if there could have been a worse idea? Like, this is just the best they could think of now.
Good point. Good.
Yeah.
Point. Any other closing? Didn't this work out just fine?
Like the presentation?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Wasn't it better than anything you'd done in the classroom?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I just think it's better because you're more comfortable.
Yeah. Like you're in the comfort of your own home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Like,
Anybody got
Not as nerve-wracking.
Okay. I think you did a super job.